Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. US President Donald Trump has announced that a surge of federal security forces will be sent to US cities in a crackdown on crime.
Extreme politicians.
Chicago and 2 other Democratic-run cities are being targeted in the Republican president's move amid a spike in violence. But federal deployments in Portland have proved controversial. Local officials have said they have raised tensions amid ongoing protests.
Today I'm announcing a surge of federal law enforcement into American communities plagued by violent crime. We'll work every single day to restore public safety, protect our nation's children, and bring violent perpetrators to justice.
Latin America has continued to be one of the worst affected regions of the coronavirus pandemic, with more than 4 million confirmed cases. Argentina has reached a new daily high with 5,782 confirmed infections in just 24 hours. The majority of them were in the capital Buenos Aires and surrounding areas. Meanwhile, in the capital of Colombia, a rotating lockdown has been enforced. Bogotá residents living in 7 neighbourhoods, which have been under lockdown for the past 2 weeks, have been allowed to resume their lives as normal, while those of 5 different neighbourhoods will go into lockdown for the next 2 weeks. Australia has reported its biggest budget deficit since World War II as the coronavirus crisis has knocked the country into its first recession in 3 decades.
The impact of the coronavirus.
Despite government support, real GDP is forecast to have contracted by 7% in the second quarter, though activity is expected to pick up in the current quarter. While antivirus restrictions have broadly been eased across most of the country, the city of Melbourne has been seeing a spike in infections. Thousands of Spanish Airbus employees have gathered outside a factory near Madrid to protest against a restructuring plan that will see hundreds of jobs lost in the country. In June, the company announced it would cut 15,000 jobs from its global workforce after the coronavirus pandemic halted most air travel. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez has said the government is working with Airbus to find ways to keep jobs in the country, but so far no details on any rescue plan have been released. China has successfully launched an unmanned probe to Mars in its first independent mission to another planet in a bid for global leadership in space and a display of its technological power and ambition. The probe is expected to reach Mars in February, where it will attempt to deploy a rover to explore the planet for 90 days. If successful, the Tianwen-1 will make China the first country to orbit, land and deploy a rover in its inaugural mission. Hong Kong residents with British national overseas visas will be able to apply for citizenship from January 2021. That's according to an announcement by the British Interior Minister. The decision, which could see nearly 3 million Hong Kong residents settling in Britain, comes after Beijing imposed a national security law on the former British colony. The Chinese embassy has said that Britain had made the decision despite opposition from Beijing, and China would respond strongly if it was not reversed. In Somalia, users of the narcotic cat leaf have been suffering from withdrawal symptoms after most imports were halted following the ban of international flights to curb the spread of coronavirus. Somalia is a major market for cat, which is grown in Kenya's fertile highlands and driven to Nairobi airport soon after harvesting to keep it fresh for consumers abroad. The price of the leaf has surged to as much as $300 per kilogram from $20 a kilogram when the flights were stopped. This has put the commodity out of reach for most of its users and has put pressure on psychiatric emergency hospitals treating users with withdrawal symptoms. Meanwhile, Qantas Airways' last Boeing 747 jet has drawn a kangaroo resembling the company's logo in the sky off the Australian coast as it began its final flight to retirement in the Mojave Desert. Qantas 747s carried more than 250 million people in almost half a century of service, including Queen Elizabeth II and every Australian Olympic team since 1984. Qantas was once the world's only airline with an all 747 fleet. And finally, to celebrate their 10-year anniversary, the boy band One Direction have launched a special website full of behind-the-scenes content, a montage video and remix versions of their biggest songs. The boy band, who have been on a hiatus since 2015, broke their 2-year Twitter silence to announce the new site. Harry Styles, Niall Horan, Liam Payne, Louis Tomlinson and former bandmate Zayn Malik have all become household names in the past decade, and fans are hopeful of more music to come after rumours of a reunion later this year. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel studios in Lagos.